Welcome back to the Global Hollywood Show. My name is Lara, Helena. I'm an actor, a performing artist, and a producer. And along with my wonderfully talented co-host, actor, stuntman, and health and fitness expert, Tomm Voss, we would like to welcome all you global dreamers out there to take a journey with us on an in-depth look at the lives at foreign Hollywood professionals. Actors, directors, producers, editors, composers, and others that all left their country of origin to pursue their dreams and come to Hollywood. What is their story? How did they get here? Who inspired them? What was their journey along the way? And what did they do or are they doing to pursue that dream in Hollywood today? So today we have yet again another great guest on the Global Hollywood Show. So welcome. Hi, Tomm Voss.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Welcome to
very
the
good.
Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, we're back. We're back on the hill.
We're back on the hill. So, tell me.
I'm very excited today because I'm about to introduce an amazing guest that we have from Britain. He's a very talented actor who has worked with Steven Spielberg, Paul Thomas Anderson, and also been on the series Mad Men. I'd like to introduce Martin Dew. Welcome
Hello.
to the show.
How are you?
Hello, Martin. Really great that you can join us in the hills today.
Well, thank you, yeah.
Little-
You're too flattering in your introduction there, but I'll live with that.
Thank you for being humble.
Well, it's really the insight look that we're looking for today in meeting these wonderful foreign Hollywood industry people, and you coming from Great Britain. How long have you been here in the United States?
I've been over here just coming up for 20 years actually, so It's been a while.
Wow. So how did it all start? When did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
Well, when I came over to the US, actually, my plan wasn't to work as an actor then. I actually got a job with Lucasfilm working in marketing. But going back years from that point, as a child, I'd always been crazy about movies. And I think it was probably going to see Jaws in 1975 on the opening night in the UK. That was one film that really inspired me, that got me into film and drama and music. And I think it was those movies that also made me think, maybe I'll be a filmmaker one day. But actually, I was also extremely interested in becoming an actor, and really the acting was the thrust of it. And throughout my teen years, I was crazy about it, and I got involved in every production I could at school during all that time. And then, of course, rather than go to university, which would have been a sensible thing to do, I then auditioned for drama college, and I auditioned for a few schools and got offered a couple of places, but I decided to go to Guildford School of Acting, which is in Surrey, just south of London. So I spent 3 years there, learning the craft, as it were.
Yeah, and was that primarily for stage, or were you focusing on...
Well, it's kind of stage, although there were TV classes as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the thing at British drama schools, the emphasis is on the voice, not necessarily being able to project the voice, but being able to use your voice in a controlled manner, and to breathe properly and all those kind of things. And the voice training actually never really leaves you. It's something that's really important for actors, actually, is to understand how to use their voice. That's what I always think, anyway.
So you went to drama school. You were, how many years?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
83 to 86.
Okay, okay. And then what happened after this? You came out into the big world and...
Yes, and I found it very tough, because I think perhaps at 21 years old I wasn't particularly castable, and I couldn't find an agent, but I did explore contacts and referrals, and I eventually got some work with the BBC, but it was one-offs. I did some work with BBC Radio Drama, and I did some voiceovers for some documentaries for BBC Television as well. So that was all really great, but it wasn't happening that often. I got very frustrated with it, and I gave myself sort of, which was probably in hindsight not quite the right thing to do, but I gave myself a limit of like 3 years, and then started looking at other things to do, and so I did. I dropped it.
Yeah. And so at that point, after 3 years, is this when you then decided to go into, as you said, you got this job with the
Well,
this film?
actually,
or what did you go
I
into
worked
then?
I worked for a sign company for a while. Actually, a company that built signs for stores and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I worked. I became interested in becoming a pilot for a while as well.
Oh, wow.
And I started doing. I took a few lessons in the UK, and then somebody told me that Virgin Atlantic was actually, if you join them as a flight attendant, you could get half paid leave to go and do flying training.
Right.
So that was one of the things I went to do. I joined Virgin Atlantic. I worked with them as cabin crew for 4 years, I think. But during
wow.
that time, I also went to San Diego and did my private pilot's license, and then started working on my instrument rating as well. But then I started to think, I'm not sure I want to spend the rest of my life in a metal tube.
Yes.
And
Good call.
film production was nagging at me again. I should say acting. I mean, acting was sort of coming back, but I'd kind of already said, no, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But another aspect of film that I love is film presentation and entertainment technology in the wider sense as well. So I'd been reading a little bit about Lucasfilm. I wasn't really a Star Wars fan, but Lucasfilm really interested me. And I started getting my hand on every article I could about the company, and then eventually I contacted them and said, I really want to come and work for you guys. And they said, no, you can't, because you don't have a green card or anything to come and work here. But because I was working for Virgin, I used my trips to San Francisco to actually go and meet the people up there, and I used to get invited up to Skywalker Ranch to go and have lunch with people, which was actually really nice.
Wow.
So I think from the day I decided that I wanted to get a job at Lucasfilm, and particularly in marketing, it actually took me 2 years from that decision to actually walking in the door as an employee. So I managed to do it.
Yeah.
And I also had a bit of a stroke of luck, because as a child I had a green card. My dad used to work in New York for IBM. So my family moved out from 1968 to 1971, and we still had our green cards. So when I was working for Virgin, I came in, I showed my green card once. We had crew visas, but I showed my green card. And they said, do you want to come in on that? And I said, well, I can't, because it expired, 20 years ago or whatever.
Right.
And anyway, so I actually got directed to a immigration supervisor who said to me, yeah, you're right, this was at JFK Airport. He said, yes, your card has expired. But he said, I tell you what, why don't you write to the US Embassy in London and ask if you can get it back? And he said they may just go for it.
Right.
And I mentioned his name, a lovely chap called Patrick Minter, worked at JFK Airport. I think he's still there in immigration, actually. I wrote to the US Embassy in London. I told them my story. And then about a month later, I got a manila envelope sent to my house in Henley-on-Thames in England, and it had about 14 forms in it. There was no letter. It was just like, I just had to fill out all these forms. And I think, wow, I may be in with a chance here.
Yeah.
Next thing I knew, I'd been notified that I'd had to go in for a medical, and then the next thing after that, an interview. And that process, I don't know, probably took about 3 months. So
Wow.
I had my green card, and my passport was stamped eligible to live and work in the United
Nice.
States. It was like,
So
yes.
the force was with you.
The force was definitely with, yes.
The force was strong with you.
It was. So then Lucasfilm said to me, right, well, if you move out here, we'll find something for you to do. So I did. I moved out in January of 95, and then I had to wait, I think, until May of that year. I actually stayed with a friend in the South Bay area of San Francisco, near the airport. And eventually they took me on as a marketing assistant at Lucasfilm in the
Fantastic.
THX division.
Yeah.
And I worked with them for over 8 years, and sort of kept getting promoted and ended up as director of international sales for that division.
And did you travel a lot
Yeah,
at that
lots,
time?
lots,
with your, okay.
everywhere, all the
Okay.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was fun, as because I kind of always wanted to travel a lot. And it's funny because I got so much the travel bug out of my system during those 8 years at
Yeah.
Lucasfilm. I don't even feel I really need to do it that much now. It's
Yes.
just like,
Yes.
It was all mostly in this galaxy, though.
unfortunately, it was all in this
all
galaxy.
in
Yes,
this
yeah.
galaxy. And in that time of those 8 years, did you have still that little burning sensation of wanting to, I need to be an actor?
act. Yeah, I mean, I suspected I would always go back to it at some point.
Yeah.
And one of the tutors actually at my drama college has said, you'll probably be much more castable later in life. So I'd always kind of remembered that. So I suspected I would go back, but I didn't know what the journey would be to actually get back there.
Yeah.
And then after my time at Lucasfilm, I then actually moved to LA because an ex-boss of mine from Lucasfilm started a new division of a big Japanese company called NEC here in LA. And it was a division that sold projectors into cinemas, into movie theatres. And I wasn't that sold on the idea, but the idea of moving to LA was of interest to me.
Yeah.
But again, at that point, I wasn't really thinking of acting. And so I worked as a director of sales for that division. We sold lots of projectors, which was great. But I figured my career goals were flatlining a bit. And even during those 6 years with NEC, I just knew I'd sort of slightly got off track. I did do a couple of days. I took a couple of days vacation here and there to do some extra work.
Yeah.
And I knew somebody at DreamWorks who got me in working as an extra on Indy 4, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and War of the Worlds. So a couple of DreamWorks productions, Steven Spielberg films, which was actually fun. And I got my SAG card from doing those 2-3 little jobs as well. So that sort of whet my appetite a bit. And anyone who thinks that extra work shouldn't be done, I do highly recommend it to people because you've got to know what the what goes on a movie set and all that stuff. So I did that. When I decided I wanted to go back, again, this is going forward now to 2010, I just thought, well, let's see if I can get into maybe some student films or whatever. So that's exactly what I did. I did a few student films and some spec commercials and stuff. And then this same friend of mine who worked and still works at DreamWorks asked if I'd be interested to go and work on Warhorse, Steven Spielberg's film in the UK. And he said, you can come out and work as a stand-in for some of the actors, as a camera stand-in. And I was like, yes, I'd love to do that. You know, what an honour to... And he said, you work for the whole show, all 11 weeks of shooting. And anyway, when I arrived, it transpired that I'd been cast as David Thewlis's henchman, Lion's crony, and I was going to get a credit and a contract and all that. So it was absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
And I actually just couldn't believe it. I was absolutely thrilled.
Yeah.
And really, it's just been sort of chugging along since then. But you know, I get these moments where these really spectacular, fun things happen, and then it goes very quiet for several weeks or months. But that's part of the that goes with the territory. I'm very happy with the way things have gone. I mean, I've now got 2 cast credits on Steven Spielberg films. I've got 2 on Paul Thomas Anderson films. I was on an episode of Mad Men. I've done a lot of stuff with Funny or Die. I get asked to do little things here and there. I do quite a lot of audio books as well.
Yeah.
And of course, it's all part of being in the Screen Actors Guild Union as well.
Yeah.
I'm happy the way things are going. I would like the momentum to build up more, but yeah, there are times I'm going. I say to myself, what on earth am I doing? And and of course, you deal with that. You wrestle with yourself. It's like, shouldn't I just get a sensible job? Because there are tough days and there are dark days as well.
Yeah.
Martin, is there anything that you like to tell the viewers out there and people that are watching the show?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, again, that thing of, where there's a will, there's a way. Just, pursue your passion to the end is what I would say, and enjoy the journey and the process as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, moving into a creative profession, and particular acting, it's incredibly tough, and you've got to be able to deal with those, like I said, those very dark days, and there will be those.
Would you say that it's harder than you have ever imagined it to be?
No, I knew what the fight was going to be, I think, And be prepared to fail as well. It's all about failure, not success. You learn from your failings, and you learn when you trip up, not when you walk across the floor in perfect motion. So that's another thing that's I think probably scares people, but you've got that's part and parcel of it.
We're going to wrap it up at this point.
Okay.
And really, really a pleasure to have you on the show and
thank you for asking
join us
me.
on our little Hollywood Hill here.
Yes, it's very nice.
So.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Thank you very
thank you,
much,
John.
Martin.